Nobody I know was forced to get a vaccination. Okay, so if you're in the military, an airline pilot, healthcare employee, education employee, you were told if you don't get this, you lose your job. You get a dishonorable discharge. You get kicked out of the military. It doesn't matter if you're a SOCOM operator, Green Beret, 20 years experience, 19 years in, right before you're 20. You'll be kicked out. Could have fought in 3 wars, had a Medal of Honor. Oh, you didn't get vaccinated? You're out. They were forced. I'm sorry, that's not consent. Just put sex in the place of vaccination. Well, if you don't sleep with me, you're going to lose your job. What do we call that? If you don't get a vaccination, you lose your job. Is that consent? Is that consent? No. Don't fucking lie to us. It's pathetic. They coerced and forced people into this and harmed a lot of people along the way. The other thing is informed consent. It's the basis of all medical ethics. Day one in medical school, they start talking about medical ethics, the doctrine of informed consent. If you do something to a patient, you must explain to the patient the consequences of the thing you're doing, both positive and negative. Doc, I want to get a back surgery. Well, let's talk about it. Doc, I want to get a bunion surgery. Well, let's talk about it. It's not all rosy sunshine. There could be side effects. There could be permanent issues. Go get a brain tumor removed. Hey, you might go deaf. Okay, that's medicine in a nutshell. Then when you say as a policy, as a journal, that anything negative about vaccines we can't publish because we don't want to promote vaccine hesitancy, then how are you succeeding in the doctrine of informed consent? If every single thing must be positive or neutral, nothing negative. And anything that's negative, you always have to say the catch-all phrase, but we still recommend you get vaccinated. It's extraordinary to me. And I've never seen a disgusting violation of medical ethics at this scale, at this level across the entire world. And it's turned a lot of people super fucking bitter. And when you say bullshit like that, nobody I know was forced to get a vaccination. You ever fly on a fucking plane? You ever go into a school? You ever go into a hospital? People were told, and unconstitutionally, by the way, because in New York and other places, the Supreme Courts have decided it was, and they're getting their jobs back, that they have to get a vaccination or they lose their job. A vaccination that was not FDA approved. You know, they tell us on the rejuvenation side, you got to do 10, 15 years of trials of stem cells on rats and things like that to even think about injecting somebody. And every normal vaccine takes 10 to 15 years. It took 10 years to get the Ebola vaccine through and all this other stuff. They tell people that, but in this case, they say one clinical trial was enough. And we can now give this to billions of people and we can't talk about the side effects. And that's an example why people are so angry. Because even though you feel that way, half of America feels the other way, and there's no escape valve because they know it's going to happen again. Because no one went to jail, no one said they're sorry, the policy will be the same. And it doesn't matter if you die, it doesn't matter if there are consequences, it will happen again. And if you speak out against it, probably this AMA will be taken down. I've now had 2 videos taken down because at least one person will click the button because they're propagandized, and now it's gone. It's so safe. Anybody who dares say otherwise has to be silenced and deplatformed. It's extraordinary to me. And by the way, I was on the other side of it. If you go back to my videos in 2021, I got vaxxed. I took the Pfizer vaccine. I trusted these bastards. Just extraordinary to me. The government's argument is that vaccination is a collective effort. Non-vaccinated individuals impede the eradication of the virus. Well, that's true if you have a global plan for a global vaccination, like we did with smallpox and polio. It only took 300 years to eradicate them, but okay. Polio's case, it took about 70, but we're mostly gotten rid of it. But there was no plan to vaccinate the vast majority of Africa, India, and other places. No plan. So if you have billions of people that act as a reservoir, every single year comes back. We all knew that. We have epidemiological models that showed that. We live it every year with influenza. You get the flu, I get the flu. Just got rhinovirus. Man, it was tough. And no matter how much you vaccinate people, unless you have a plan to force vaccinate the entire world, you'll have a reservoir for billions of people to get it. The other thing is it mutates rapidly. And it escaped the vaccines very rapidly. All the vax people in the United States got coronavirus again. Okay. So what they did is they said there's a crisis of the unvaxxed. If only 100% of America got vaccinated, we'd be totally immune to it. In less than 4 months later, some guy gets on a plane, travels from some place that wasn't vaxxed, and lo and behold, they have the new variant, and now we all get sick again. That's what happened. We knew that. It's a bullshit argument. Doesn't exist. It's a bullshit argument. You still get protection from the variants with the vax. Says you, the efficacy is less than 15 to 20%. And also, if you already get COVID, why wouldn't you also have protection from that? Oh, no, we can't talk about natural immunity. We won't even do a single study. It's impossible, guys. It's impossible. It's so crazy too, is we have these universal vaccines they're working on. The military had one that Walter Reed came up with. And there's a few other teams that have been working on it, and they seem to actually be very effective, but they're stuck in the normal FDA approval process. So it's such a horrible thing that the vaccine that doesn't work after 6 months because a variant comes and we get sick again, that vaccine, we have to approve it. But then the vaccine that the military came up with that is universal against all types of COVID and would have long-term, long-lasting immunity, that we have to go through normal FDA process, spend 10 to 15 years on that. Okay. All right. Yeah, Google Walter Reed universal COVID vaccine if you're interested in it. U.S. military came up with it. It's a great design too. By the way, the safest vaccine on the market was the one that Novavax came up with. It uses the protein subunit and with an adjuvant, and it's based on a technology that's been around for a really, really long time. This comes from Chilean bark, of all things. The hepatitis B vaccine in the 1980s was the first to use this technique. So 30 plus years of history behind it. And they kept that off the market for a long, long time, even though it was the most effective. Go figure. Would you explain any of the existential risks associated with synthetic biology? Sure. You can take any pandemic causing agent, like, for example, Omicron, which has got an R value that's like crazy, crazy high, like over 10. So it's more infectious than measles. And you can take that and you can combine it with an ailment like rabies or whatever you care, Lassa fever, pick your favorite horrible, super evil virus, and you put them together and you can basically get your peanut butter and jelly. So you can have an agent that is super infectious, but also super high mortality, super lethal. And then you can push it through. So that is happening real time at labs across the world. And they do it through gain of function research or whatever the fuck the parlance is now, because gain of function is no longer gain of function. And they do it and they say it's for vaccination research. And if any of these escape, it could kill half the world. And there are small teams, usually, dozen scientists, maybe 3 dozen scientists, and there's thousands of these facilities that think about these things and play around with these things. And the regulation is not really there unless you think 80-year-old senators are up for the task of explaining how synthetic biology works. Now, I've developed a bit of domain expertise in this technology because we genetically engineer plants on a regular basis using CRISPR-Cas9, and obviously we're resurrecting dead animals too. So there are a lot of scientists floating around in my orbit these days that do synthetic biology, and the techniques to modify an elephant genome or to modify a plant genome are very similar to the techniques one would use to design a virus. And if we can hire people that have those capabilities, anybody can hire people who have those capabilities. And this is mostly an unregulated market. So it's something we need to pay a lot of attention to. And the great tragedy of the COVID debate of whether it came from a lab or not wasn't we should blame China and be really angry with China for a lab leak. It was, let's take a step back and recognize that it's not okay to have small groups of people be able to create something that can kill half the human race. And maybe, just maybe, we should look at this from the same lens we look at the Atomic Energy Commission and nuclear weapons. And instead, what we did is just went, no, conspiracy theorists, you're bad people. and deplatform anybody who even dares talk about a lab leak, and just move on and let these scientists continue doing what they do. That is the reality we live in. It's a fact. There was no lab leak. Meh. Meh. I'll show you guys a little document here. I'm gonna put from DARPA. So this is a document from 2018, and it was titled Diffuse. Wah! And it was a grant proposal to DARPA, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, University of North Carolina, Duke Medical School, the USGS National Wildlife Health Center. Oh, why are they involved? Palo Alto Research Center, and obviously DARPA, and EcoHealth with the big guy up top. And basically, the executive summary is to go and look for bats and start cataloging the stuff the bats have and study coronaviruses, and then do some research to basically produce vaccines, which will hopefully be useful against those particular coronaviruses. So we will build host pathogen spatial models to predict bat species compositions of caves in Southeast Asia, parameterized with full inventory of host virus distribution or field tests, 3 caves in Yunnan prominence, create unique global data sets on bat host viral relationships. Yay! And we'll evaluate SARS-CoV on cave bats, broad immunal boost, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, look at all these people. So there's Dr. Shi, that's the bat lady from Wuhan Institute of Virology, will conduct viral testing on all the collected samples, building assays and some humanized mouse work. Humanized mice? Those are mice with human immune systems, and they use gain of function on them and actually infect them with the virus and explore what the viruses do. And the idea is to build vaccines against it. So this document right here is literally a blueprint for how one would build a COVID virus. And lo and behold, didn't get funded because DARPA had the wherewithal to say maybe we shouldn't be doing this. But right there on the document is the very person who ran the lab where we think it leaked from. Big document, goes on many, many pages. And they talk about how they're going to do it, how they get the bats, what they're going to do to the humanized mice. Oh, look at those little mice right there. Okay, there you go. On and on and on and on and on and on. And what is the date on this document? Let's take a look here, kids. March 24th, 2018. How about that? How about that? But no, it's just a complete coincidence that they were talking about doing this and they were doing it in the very place that they were doing it as the epicenter of the pandemic. No, it's natural origin. Actually, no, this is the great irony. COVID was a DARPA project. DARPA rejected the grant to go to build COVID because they said it wasn't safe. It was too risky for DARPA. Is it a leak if it was purposeful? No, it wasn't purposeful. It's just one of the lab techs got sick. It was a lab with a poor safety record. That's the point. Why do you pretend to be an expert on anything? All you have is a high school diploma, nothing more. That's not true. I have a college degree, Elizabeth. I had a college degree at 18 years old. Careful what you read. No, you don't. That was proven. Actually, I do. Look it up. When I was 18, I graduated from Front Range Community College. Got an associate's degree there and then transferred Metro and then later on transferred to CU Boulder. And I was in a dual program and got all these graduate credits, but never finished it. You can just email them, Liz, if you want to. Email Front Range. Go ahead. No, it's easier just to be in my channel. Bark at me.